assembly is going to be next year, but this year we are having an online one in October. So who is part of the General Assembly? On one hand, the liaison committees that represent territorial members. Not all of them have the same number of voting votes, because it depends on the duties each territorial member pays. It's an increasing function of how much money each one pays. And then the commission chairs, I'm going to tell you what commissions are. Commission chairs have voting rights. The new category of corporate associate members, they pay their dues, but they don't have voting rights. And then we have official observers. We invite representatives of other unions, of regional physical societies, but it's just for them to be there and share the assembly with us, basically. And then the liaison committees could be physical societies, but they can also be national academies of sciences. Usually in the oldest members of IUPAP is national academies of sciences. So the question then is, how do we relate with individual physicists? And so we have a bunch of layers from the IUPAP to the individual physicist, and that's quite a challenge. It's hard to reach out to physicists outside academic institutions. And one of the main ways in which we relate to the physics communities is through some of the activities that we sponsor, that are the conferences and awards. And all of that is organized mainly through commissions. And the working group on women in physics is quite special. I'm going to talk a little bit later. So these are the commissions. They are mainly organized by subfields of physics, with the exception of the first one, which is mainly the officers of the union. And the territorial members have a say on who serves on each of these commissions, because we try to keep a balance between the number of units that are paid and the number of positions that are occupied on commissions. And then these commissions, C2 through C20, they decide on, they analyze the applications for conference sponsorship and endorsement, and also the awards that are given. All of the commissions give early career scientist awards. Some of them also give awards for more senior scientists, but that depends on the commission. So then we have affiliated commissions. These are independent group of scientists. For example, the International Commission for Optics, they have their own structure, but the chair of that commission participates in our General Assembly, and also we give them some money for their awards, and they also analyze conferences. For example, the International Commission for Acoustics or Medical Physics, and recently we added 2 new affiliated commissions, one with the International Association of Physics Students, and the other one, a new one that we created, on the history and philosophy of physics. And then we have working groups, which are temporary structures. Now, they are in 2021, we decided that all working groups are going to be established for 6 years, and all current working groups have been extended through the next in-person assembly. And what you can see is that some working groups have existed for quite a long time, including the Women in Physics working group. And the most recent ones are the one in ethics that was approved in 2021, and the chair is Ana Maria Cheto, whom I first met at the first EQUIP, actually. And then the quantum science and technology, and Shohini Ghosh, who was member of WG5, is the chair of that working group. And this one has not a chair yet. So anyway, so working groups are supposed to be temporary, but some of them have existed for quite a long time. And we expect to have these new working groups in the future. But we are now doing a self-evaluation of all the structure of the union, because we want to have also an external point of view of how we function. And maybe we will restructure everything, in particular, women in physics, to embrace diversity and have a more permanent type of structure, not something that you have to renew every 6 years at the General Assembly. Anyway, so in between GAs, the decisions are made by the Executive Council, and Then, so we have the commissions, the disciplinary commissions, the affiliated commissions, the working groups. And the executive council and the commission chairs meet once per year. And the last one we had was online. And this year, before the GA, we are going to have one. And then these are the people who we meet every month. So it's the current president, the past president, and then the secretaries general for different things, the person who is in charge of all the conferences, and the treasurer, and me. And then we have 2 staff members only, so we cannot do everything. These are the only 2 people that we pay. And then the rest, we do this on our, I don't know, we spend some time of our working time on IUPAP. And then the rest of the members of the Executive Council are 4 vice presidents at large. One is Jillian, who is the gender champion now. And Monica has been in charge of the centennial celebrations. And Laura is the VP for Outreach and Ethics, and Nisia for Membership. And Eagle is going to apparently to be nominated for this position instead of Nisia. And then we have some chairs of commissions that are on the Executive Council. And one of them is Hui Juan, who was a member of WG15, and now she's the chair of the Physics for Development Commission. Anyway, so these are the main sponsored activities that I told you, the conferences and the awards. And other activities that we perform, we issue statements and write position papers. It could be to induce our company changes, also to support physics community. Sometimes we receive requests from territorial members saying that their governments had decided to stop funding science and things like that. And so we write statements, or we issued recently a statement on the ban of women to study in Afghanistan. And we also issued a statement on Iran, etc. Anyway, then the rules that we impose on our own structure and the activities serve as example for the national and regional societies that are related to us. The rules we impose on conferences, those are the only ones, I mean, the rules that we impose on our own structure and those that we impose on conferences and awards, which are the things that we sponsor, are the only ones that we can enforce. All the rest we can recommend, we can show the example, and others can take it or not. Well, then we have projects, we have also newsletters. We try to issue 4 newsletters per year. And hopefully we will increase our visibility, which is something that I don't know how much we've been successful with. Anyway, these rules, statements, etc., are approved by the GA. Although when there is some urgency, the Executive Council can issue a statement because it's very urgent. And then any member can submit a resolution to be considered and approved by the GA. Also commissions, members of the Executive Council, or working groups. And so part of the impact of WG5 has come through the recommendations and resolutions that were submitted to the GAs. And so let me tell you that the next GA is going to be in October, and the agenda has been shared, the preliminary draft agenda, with our members. We haven't set yet the deadline for the submission of resolutions or for anything that you want to discuss at the assembly. I guess it's going to be a month before October 9. I mean, if you want to submit resolutions, we haven't set the deadline yet. Anyway, so let me tell you, these resolutions that are discussed are the QIPs. Many of them made it to the IUPAP, but not all of them, even though they have been approved, not all of them have been actually implemented. So the first equip in Paris issued recommendations and resolutions. And there was one resolution for IUPAP because there were other resolutions for physical societies, for schools, for different types of institutions. But the GA then approved, therefore, itself for IUPAP that adhering bodies, which is the liaison committees, appoint women to liaison committees, that gender be a consideration in nominations to commissions and the council, and expects that IUPAP-sponsored conferences have women as members of their program committees. And this was mainly a declaration, but now we have rules on that. Then the second EQUIP in Rio, immediately after that, there was the GA in Cape Town, and they approved all those resolutions, like saying, we approve all the resolutions that were submitted by the Working Group on Women in Physics. But then that stays a little bit of like hidden, let me tell you. And then someone has to do some work to be able to advance with those resolutions. And that didn't happen so often in the past, but now I think it's going much better. For example, require organizers, here what I bold-faced is what we haven't implemented yet, but require organizers of sponsor conferences to improve their inclusion and encouragement of women, and request that member societies do the same. Then that registration fees must be waived for recipients of IUPAP travel grants for women. We don't have that rule implemented, but it could be easily added to our rules for conferences. And then organizers must report to IUPAP on the gender demographics of the program committee, etc. That's something that we now do, but I think we started like 5 years ago or something like that, not at the time of this resolution. Then all these family-friendly schedules of conferences or the solve the childcare problem, that I think is very complicated with international conferences. But anyway, and then the model exemplary institutional transparency in its policies, etc. We have this working group on ethics, and we expect that they will issue a set of recommendations for our own way of working, but also we can, include recommendations for our members. But as I told you, we cannot enforce things other than on our own structure or the activities we sponsor. And then this co-sponsor the development and encourage the use and translation of training modules on gender and racial equity in physics. This hasn't been done, but I think that maybe could be, part of the discussion with the Commission on Education. That's something that I think we have to think a little bit from the point of view of IUPAP, how to reach out better to the physics educators. I will talk a little bit more later. Then this is from the third EQUIP. The GA was immediately afterwards in Tsukuba, Japan. And also there, they approved all the resolutions like in a package. And this actively encourage organizers of IUPAP-sponsored conferences to provide a program on professional development and outreach activities. That's something that we don't have it written on our conference guidelines. And I think we can add it because it's not that it's mandatory, we are encouraging. And I think it's good that people can read that on our guidelines. And then at the time, we were about to launch the Global Survey of Physicists. So the resolution charged the working group with overseeing that survey. Then the fourth EQUIP from Stellenbosch, they talked about encouraging the Commission on Physics Education to collaborate with the working group to summarize guidelines for the training of physics. I think that in physics education, we should establish something a little bit the structure like we have for the working group on women in physics, because I think that this kind of network of networks with working groups is very good to reach out to the local communities, because it's the local working groups who translate or communicate. And because for physics education, language is a barrier. If we want to go to secondary schools or not university level schools. So I think that we have to rethink how we want to reach out to physics education better. Right now, it's a commission of people who does research. They do research on physics education at the university level, but I think that it's a little separate from what happens in the educating systems of the territories. Anyway, so this is a little bit more from the fourth equip. The transparent list of criteria for awards, the analysis of the global surveys, and then request the response from each IUPAC liaison committee to its country, the country working group on women in physics report. That's something we never implemented really. And maybe we should start thinking of that. And then the GA in 2011 approved two things that are related to women in physics. One, Cecilia Yarskov became the first woman president of IUPAC. And then IUPAC also decided to appoint a gender champion. And then the first gender champion was Marcia. Marcia was the first chair of the working group on women in physics, and she was the first vice president at large with gender champion duties. And the idea of this gender champion, which is on the executive committee, was to liaise better with the working group. And I think it did. I mean, it's doing quite a bit of an interesting job in translating the resolutions of equips into actions of IUPAC. And so then after the equip in Waterloo, Cecilia was the president then, and she didn't like what we had written. We had to rewrite everything. We did go very fast during the assembly. And we endorsed an annual International Women in Physics Day. Later we decided it was going to be February 11th, the same as the International Day on Girls and Women in Science. But I don't think we've done much. And then support and encourage physical societies. And one thing that was in the resolutions that we had submitted to the assembly of IUPAC was the Waterloo Charter. We didn't have a draft, we only had the idea. And Cecilia said, we cannot approve that if we don't have anything written. But we kept on working on it. And this has been approved by the GA in 2021. And it's appended with a list of recommendations. And the idea is that the working group updates those recommendations. So then before the equip in 2017, not in the Middle Ages really, the IUPAC president asked WG5 whether IUPAC should have a policy on harassment. And so there was this exchange of emails, and that was basically implemented. It hasn't been passed as a resolution, but we have that on our guidelines. I'm going to show it. I don't know how much time I have left. But anyway, and then in 2015, the new gender champion that was looking at the statistics, because then we started to ask that conference organizers provided statistics on women participation in conferences, both as participants and members of committees and plenary speakers, etc., etc. She saw that the numbers were not improving too much. Gillian knows quite a bit about those statistics. And she said we should have a target of 20%, and we shouldn't be funding conferences with less than 10%. And now we have that on our guidelines. If it's below 10%, then you have, I mean, the person who is in charge of conferences, approval and stuff, will start to negotiate so as to increase that percentage, because we can understand that some communities are too masculine and stuff like that. But anyway, we don't want to be, I mean, we want to advance through dialogue. And then in the sixth equip, one of the resolutions was to encourage IUPAC sponsored conferences to have a session for all participants on diversity and inclusion, and that has been added to our conference guidelines. Then to encourage to have more women plenary speakers, etc. Well, it's this thing about the 10% and the 20%. And the WG5 was extended for 6 years. And the Global Survey of Scientists and the Gender Gap Project was mentioned to justify that extension. Yes.
5 minutes. 5 minutes.
Okay. So then the seventh equip submitted a bunch of resolutions, and about the workshops, it's something we haven't added. I mean, we haven't passed as a resolution of IUPAP. And this anonymized review, that's, I don't know, it's more complicated. And there was something that Gillian mentioned, whether if we want to promote to have more diversity, if we want to have an active policy of increasing the fraction of women, then if it's anonymized, then we cannot do that. But anyway, so that's like a tension there. How can we do that? And then now we have, as part of the nomination process for awards, a certification that there is no known issues of scientific misconduct that was passed. And then this thing with physics educators, that's something that we have to liaise with with C14, the Commission of Physics Education. So as I've told you, the GA in 2021 adopted the Waterloo Charter, and then we expanded the mandate of the working group with what the working group had been doing basically, but put it in the mandate explicitly. And then we charged the vice gender champion, Gillian, to start thinking of how to increase the scope beyond women and also beyond gender, whether to have what kind of structure would better serve to look at inclusion in a multidimensional, with multiplicity of dimensions. And then we have the diversity of candidates of awards that we ask chairs to guarantee the diversity of the pool of candidates in awards. And we haven't implemented this information on the pool of those that make it for the selection be shared with the gender champion. We should do that. And then we have this statement on the ethics of the candidates. The Young Scientist Awards have been renamed as Early Career Scientist Awards. We established the working group on ethics. And we have this 10%, 20% that I told you about. And we have this anti-harassment protocol for conferences. But recently we have received an email from the chair of one commission saying that some of the that some people complain that organizers have harassed other organizers. And so we have to think how to deal with that, because all of this is for the conference itself. What happens with the own workings towards the conference? We have to think. We asked the working group on ethics to say something, and then our articles and regulations include some statements on that there should be at least how many women on some positions, etc. And also on commissions, the Executive Council. Well, these are some current numbers that I'm going to. So let me summarize. The resolutions and recommendations submitted by WG5 help reshape IUPAP, and having the gender champion further contributed to this. And so we have all these composition on the IUPAP structures with some rules to increase the diversity, new rules for conferences, rules for awards, the Waterloo Charter. And then the efforts of the working group also led to the collection of useful data that served to design these policies, the two surveys that the working group and IUPAP has been involved with. And then also the Gender Gap in Science project started from an idea of IUPAP, and this led to the creation of the Gender Gap in Science, led to the Standing Committee for Gender Equality in Science that IUPAP has two representatives in. And then also it had a huge impact on in developing countries, I think. This is a picture of the career development workshop in Trieste. We have a bunch of them in Latin America too. And I think it was the most successful community building policy that was carried out by IUPAP in the last 20 years. So with this, I end, and I thank you all.
Thank you very much, Silvina, for all this talk, which gave us insight on the IUPAP structure, and it's a very good starting for this session. So now the session is open for question and answers. Please, if you want to write your question in the question and answers board. At this moment, I don't see any questions, so anyone? Oh,
there is
Farida,
a hand
please.
raised.
Yeah.
Yes, Farida,
Yeah.
please.
Yeah, good afternoon, good morning. Thank you very much for the nice presentation. It was really very exciting to know, mostly for me, there are many things new for me. I have a quick question regarding the society. We have just created the high energy physics, the Moroccan High Energy Physics Society in Morocco. And I mean, I would like to know how we can connect to the IUPAP. So from your presentation, this is clear that you enhance this creation of these bodies, and then there is at least an official body that we can communicate to each other. So what is the optimal way to contact you? And
I see two options. I don't remember if Morocco is a member of IUPAP right now. I mean, I should look at that. And so if you go to our website, iupap.org, and look at whether Morocco is a member and who is the liaison committee. And so try to talk to the liaison committee, because we don't have this is very specific. It's the high energy physical society. Not even physical society. And we have a commission on high energy and particles, C11. And so we have members in this commission.
This is fantastic.
And they are suggested by our territorial members, and then we have to decide. It's very complicated. It's a frustrated problem. Let me tell you, it's very hard to deal with all the constraints that we have and leave everybody pleased with the final selection. But then we also have the option of having associated members that don't have voting rights, but they can participate in the commission deliberations and meetings and whatever. And for example, we had that with a representative of a Latin America. It wasn't a national, but a Latin American association in high energy physics. And so that would be, but it would be better to see if Morocco is a member, to talk to the liaison committee, to the representatives. And if not, I don't know.
Yeah, there is I have seen the name, but I have never heard from her. I mean, this is actually, there is an issue with the representative, the contact person at the country level. So this is not working as is expected.
Are you talking about the working group on women?
No, but in general, I have just learned that there is one, but I have no idea really. But
what I say is that there are two separate things. One is the country team for the working group, and the other thing is the IUPAP liaison committee.
Okay.
And because on the working groups on women in physics, we have in more countries than IUPAP members, let me tell you. And but send me an email, and then I can try to put you in touch, because we also are trying to help build communities in countries that don't have a very large physics communities, and we are thinking of a new way to relate to IUPAP. But it's not the field of physics that we relate to, it's the whole physics community. That's the thing.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have two questions. Could the country poster process be adapted, extended a bit, so that data from each country attending EQUIP is compiled each year into a global database, even though not all countries would have all data?
Well, I don't know. I mean, if the working group wants to set up like a form for people to enter data, that could be an option. I don't know. That's a lot of work, but that could be an option if, I mean, to have something of that sort. Gillian raised her hand.
Yes.
Just to speak to that, I mean, I do think, and as Kathy was talking about in her talk yesterday, there is an awful lot of amazing information that's in the proceedings and in the country papers. And I mean, I've sort of thought for quite a while just how useful it would be and how could we actually sort of extract the data. And so it might be something that if we could actually try and come up with a project and find the right sort of partners who would help just to work out how we could actually mine this data and make it sort of, it's great that it's there, but how can we actually make more than the sum of its parts? So I think that's something, if we can investigate.
Yeah, I see two possibilities here. One is to mine the proceedings, I mean, to read and transform that into numbers. And the other thing is to ask current working groups to enter data, at least the current data. So to set up a form and collect the current data. We won't have the information on previous data unless we also ask current working groups to include that old, I mean, the old information, but that's quite a bit of work, I would say. So, but I see those two separate things. And we can think of that as part of these diversity ideas that we were discussing.
Okay.
But one is the work on the current working groups, but someone has to set up the form. Maybe that's easy. Of course, we tend to think of Google form, but Google is not available in all countries. So we have to think of that too. And then the other one would require some larger investment of money too. It would be like I don't know, extracting numbers from what's in PDF. But I think it's doable. But anyway, shouldn't be difficult really. But
Okay.
I mean, it's reading, understanding what it's saying, and include it in the right column of a file, of a database. So that's the thing. You need to understand what's there and transform it into numbers. It can be done, but it will cost. I don't know how much. So.
Okay, I think we have to move. We have to think about it. Actually, during this workshop on the small databases, this came up. So we have to think about it and maybe design some feasible proposal. Yes. Okay, I think we have to move on because we have still the workshop presentations. What we have done, Silvina, before is that you can answer, please, the questions. There are several questions here in the board. Or you can please answer the questions. Type the answer.
Type the answers.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And you start with, yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Silvina, for this very good talk as usual. And then we start the presentation of the workshop's reports. Okay, so please, workshop number 9, I think it's, Gillian, on physics education.
The workshop 1. Let me share my screen if I can, make sure that should be that on the PowerPoint. Just press share. And hopefully you can now see my slides.
Yes,
so,
yes, we can see.
Yes, so first of all, thanks first of all to the organisers for organising the conference and the workshops. And thanks for our workshop, a huge thank you to all the delegates who took part and participated so fully and actively. We appreciate all the input. So the chairs of that session were Pratibha Jolly, Ruwen Ping, Tetiana Antimirova, and Manjula Sharma, plus myself. So we had a great team to put together a really great couple of workshops, and so a huge thank you to my co-chairs for all the work that they did. So we tried to pull together what we'd had come up in the workshops, and which I'm about to present, but any deviation from the script and any errors subsequently from that are mine alone. So we had two very separate sessions. So our session 1 focused on higher education institutions and how to transform them for gender equity. So this is in response to the success of various initiatives such as Athena Swan in the UK and Ireland, SAGE in Australia, Sea Change in the USA, Dimensions Canada, and the GATI project, pilot project in India, and the Project Juno in UK and Ireland. So we had talks in a few of these particular projects. So Pratibha Jolly spoke about the GATI pilot project, followed by Kavita Jain, who talked about it from the Institute's perspective, which I think was the GNSCAR perspective of the GATI project and her involvement with it there. Fiona Dorrington from the UK, from the Institute of Physics on Project Juno and its evolution over the 14 years that it's been running. And then Li Maizhu from China, I talked about the efforts and measures of gender equality in Chinese higher education institutes. So a lot of sort of really interesting discussion talks came through. And so we've just pulled out some of the key messages that we felt came out from the talks and the discussion, so that there's a need for more countries to adopt and adapt this evidence-based self-assessment for advancing gender equity at both institutional and departmental level. Such initiatives need to be evaluated periodically to see that they are still fit for purpose and evolve accordingly, such as Project Juno, which is evolving. I always want to nudge, or perhaps we want to change that verb to something a bit more concrete, to not just nudge, systemic change at institutional level to create an inclusive culture and to support talent of the full gender spectrum. Systematic data collection is needed for bridging the gap and eliminating disparity. But as well as the data, it's also important to address the organisational culture and gender climate, in particular, eliminating the obvious bias that takes place. And institutions need to evolve smart action plans, so it has to be fairly specific and measurable, and all the other things that the SMART stands for. Support and commitment of senior leadership is critical, and also encouraging influential men to participate and become allies is also very important. And finally, just community engagement is important. No one can do it alone. So there's sort of messages there really for sort of all levels, for even individuals trying to do it and do it alone. That is the best advice, that you try and get support of the people that you work with, other women, but also if you can try and get that support from senior leadership and influential men as well. So for our session 2, we focused on totally different aspects, which was curriculum, technology and pedagogy. So effective teaching learning environments, and whatever be the relative emphasis on text-based lectures, problem solving or inquiry-based learning, to recognise the importance of hands-on activities and demonstrations and laboratory experiments. Increasingly, technology is being effectively integrated. So successful strategies to combine all these need wide adoption and dissemination at all levels. So again, we had a great series of talks covering really very different aspects, but all very complementary in what they were saying. So first of all, we had Laura McCulloch from the USA on promoting a sense of belonging in the physics classroom. Mehmet Fatih Tashar from Turkey talking about physics, technology and education. Raj Chowdhury talked about the interactive lecture demonstrations as a computer-supported collaborative learning activity. Manjula Sharma gave some tips and techniques, but which actually included the tips and techniques on using technology and pedagogy in the curriculum, which we'll see in the next slide. Shaima Zaman from Denmark talked about exploring games and simulation in quantum physics education, having been in quantum physics and then has set up her own company, which writes games and simulations to help in education. And Sapna Sharma from India talked about transitioning from traditional labs to simulated labs and implementation of virtual experiments. So I say there was a lot to cover there, and a lot of sort of interesting points came out. But again, these are just some of the key messages that we thought we'd sort of report back to this forum. So appropriately designed group activities promote a sense of belonging, and particularly for women students, and they're very important. And we heard some very interesting suggestions as to how one would do that. So diverse curricula attracts females. Then including stories, historical narratives, enhances student interest and emotional engagement. So Manju talked about this and shared some very interesting work that her PhD students had done, which are great and simple, but sort of really effective ways of bringing in some nice stories and historical narratives, and just putting that human element on the physics that's taking place. So adopting active learning strategies are demonstrably important for student success and help students to evolve a growth mindset. Interactive lecture demonstrations can be used to improve teacher preparation, and promoting the appropriate use of games and simulations in virtual and remote labs to aid in learning. Also, things like gamification of learning difficult concepts, such as in quantum physics or astrophysics, provides a safe environment for risk-taking and promotes confidence among students, particularly women. And then we're also thinking about some of the online learning and the new things that are taking place about that have been proven to be successful, but exploring the gendered implications of things like online learning and the wide-scale adoption of the, and I've now forgotten what MOOC stands for, the online courses that are available. So we talked a lot about various sorts of recommendations, and some of which are sort of more within the physics education community. So we only came up really with a couple of more direct recommendations, perhaps to IUPAP and the working group, which is that share resources such as textbooks written by women. And we heard that in the US that they now have some very good textbooks, which as well as either being written by women, but actually in terms of the images that are presented in the textbooks are very diverse and reflect the population. So how can we share these resources? Now, this is something which keeps cropping up, and about how the Working Group 5 could actually help share resources needs a suitable website. I know it's something that Silvina has been working on for many years, and again, that's something I think that we just keep re-emphasising. It would be great if we could come up with some way of being able to share such resources. I should also say that you might have spotted in amongst the chairs, the session chairs or the workshop chairs. This was a really strong collaboration between the Working Group 5, obviously we're organising this conference, and C14, the Physics Education Commission, and they were really invaluable at helping reach out to the community and finding speakers. So I think that's something that we do want to, as was mentioned in Silvina's talk about, some of the collaborations that we could do and having a stronger links. And I think this is we've had the links, but we can look to see how we can actually enhance and strengthen those links. And then there was talked about the teachers and students have been obviously affected by the pandemic. Everyone's been affected by the pandemic, but what other ways that we can actually further support and find scholarships just to see if there are ways that we can mitigate some of those effects, because these effects are going to be felt for years, perhaps even decades. So what can we actually do to help mitigate some of those effects now before it gets is propagated down the line? So on that, again, I just thank all these speakers and the organizer, my co-chairs, and all the delegates for participating in this workshop. Thank you, and I can stop sharing.
Yes, thank you, Gillian. Oh, okay, I think we have time for a couple of questions. If you can write them again in the board. No questions? Okay, so in order to be on time, you can write your questions, and Gillian, again, please, if you can write the answers later. Okay, there will be another, if we have time to talk about all the resolutions and all the presentations. So now, please, I call workshop number 2, which is, I think, yes, small data, people. Yes, please.
Thank you.
Yes, over you, please.
Okay, my slides visible?
Yes, it is visible.
Okay, thank you, Lilia. And well, April had some travel commitments, so I'm going to step in and make this presentation on behalf of April. So W2 workshop of ICPIP 2023 had a focus on social science data analysis for physicists. It was a hands-on workshop, and we had 2 focuses. On day 1, we largely targeted to parse qualitative data and discussed mostly qualitative, how to collect qualitative data, what are the research ethics in qualitative data collection, how contextualization plays an important role, and what are ethical strategies, and how qualitative and quantitative data may not, of course, I mean, empirical data has a different set of rules to for reliability and so as for the qualitative data. So we essentially discussed the norms of a good and rich qualitative data collection and analysis. And in the hands-on workshop, we we brought some cases and discussed it in small groups, and what each case has to tell about, or what kind of research questions can be drawn, what you see as a group in that data was parsed in small groups. On day 2, or closer to the introduction, end of day 1, Professor Eleanor Sayer introduced us to the portal IPEDS, which is a large, really large data, open source data, which focuses particularly on women of color, and also kind of tries to introduce us with large data set that can help us to try and address many questions which are related to diversity, gender diversity in particular, in school systems in United States. So day 2 also had a hands-on activity where in breakout room, we tried to go through this data portal in quite a bit of depth, and worked out what different kinds of questions that can interest us through this database, and how what the data tells basically about the questions in hand. So apart from April and me, Elizabeth Mulvey and Professor Eleanor Sayer helped us in facilitating this session, and Jessica, John, and Monique also helped us in terms of technical formalities of this session. I would put it in April's word. She mentioned that I'm asking all of you to engage with our work and remember that everyone is motivated by a universal love of science, but most importantly, a universal love of people who love science. And as a qualitative research person, we have witnessed in interviews how at times it can be difficult for marginalized population to face different challenges, but still they try to engage with the work they love. And these stories are very inspiring, and all the things that were shared or that we discussed during the entire conference and workshop, particularly has something, or everything is definitely going to make an impact, and or at least it can contribute in the process of making impact. So we also discussed in detail in breakout room about the resolution. And we had 3 breakout room, and each breakout room were requested to do discuss. Each breakout room actually came up with 2 resolutions, and in the larger group we voted for the top 2 resolution. I must say that many of the suggestions, both those voted up and the others, echoed many previous resolutions. For instance, from the second ICVIP, which we just heard, co-sponsor the development and encourage the use and translation of training modules on gender and race equity in physics, on physics education pedagogies and curricula, and on recruitment, retention, and advancement of science, have been again picked up by one of the breakout room. Similarly, from the fourth ICVIP, encourage its commissions and member countries to have a clear and transparent list of criteria for awards, ensuring that women are nominated for prizes, and that there are women in the selection committee for prizes and awards, was again kind of reflected in one of the resolution that was proposed by these. But the top 2 resolutions that our W2 workshop group felt was 1, enhancing women's participation in physics via scholarship for women PhD students and exchange scholarships or program particularly for women. And the second resolution was about targeted support for developing countries by studying data, collecting data, and research. These resolutions presented here, or the top 2, were derived from suggestions made across all 3 groups, and they were refined using SMART, that is specific, measurable, achievably realistic, and timely criteria, and then grounded in the content presented during the workshop according to IUPAC suggestion. So I would just say that there were many individual resolutions also arrived in the discussion, particularly for individuals. Many of us felt that the opposite genders may accept the gender equality in principle, but it is equally important that it appears in practice. So as an individual, all genders, particularly men, can work on this. And in terms of institutional recommendations, we again agreed that having measures on gender sensitization and acknowledging gender inclusion practices at the time of accreditation is an important step, and institutions definitely should work progressively towards it. Our larger or 2 main resolutions, which I already had presented, this highlight that in spite of women doing reasonably okay in terms of undergraduate or UG level, their presence at graduate level and above is not still significant. Furthermore, the networking opportunities, which can bring a long-term and extended research connectivity to them, needs to be established strategically, and if not, then efforts for this should be prioritized. Therefore, our first resolution is empowering women in terms of scholarship at PhDs, and also in terms of exchange program that can encourage extended interaction of research with the global community. Similarly, our second resolution is particularly bringing the support to developing countries in terms of collecting data in gender in physics and also observing patterns and our commitment for dedicated research. And it was particularly brought it up that at Equip platform, when representatives from all countries met, it was apparent that we all can learn a lot from each other, and hence should support the gender diversity missions, not only for our own country, but also support these initiatives being established in other countries. So I think those are the two recommendations for WG5 that W2 workshop group came up with. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Deepa. Thank you very much. Do we have any question? No? No. Seems that no. Okay, so let's continue the next presentation. This is for workshop number 3. Also, I please Prashwal.
I'll just share my screen.
Okay.
Can you see?
Yes, we can see.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much, Lydia. So I'm going to report on workshop 3, which was called Interrogating Physics Practice with an Intersectionality Lens. And this workshop was run by myself and Dr. Chainika Shah, and was facilitated by Dr. Nicole Bossard and Kate Porterfield. And here is the team that designed the workshop. So there were about 20 participants on day 1 and 15 on day 2. And I would like to thank all of them for their very, very active and engaged and thoughtful participation. So the premise of our workshop was that understanding the root causes of inequity in physics involves understanding how identity plays out in physics. And this is in line with the various charters we've seen over the decades, the Pasadena Charter, the Hyderabad Charter of 2019, and finally the Waterloo Charter of 2021. And one of the important tenets there is that if in a selection process or admission process, the gender fraction drops with respect to the pool, then that's a clear sign of systemic bias. And our institutions are therefore flawed meritocracies, and we need to fix that. So I think something that Fannie Lou Hamer said once really encapsulates the spirit of our workshop. She said, the truth is, no one of us can be free until everybody is free. And what to do about it is encapsulated very nicely in something that Christina Dhanraj said: to walk that extra mile, to fight the fight like it's your own. So for this workshop, we had 3 preparatory videos. One which described the intent and goals of the workshop, one which talked about how salience of gender identity results in inequity, and finally, what is intersectionality. So one of the main things about this was that we wanted to argue that we need to step away from from fixing the women. We need to go by the evidence, which tells us that what we should really be doing is fix our bent tree, the bent tree of physics. And at one extreme of fixing the women are these very compelling arguments that Madhurima Vindanapati has made in her poster, which I draw your attention to, where she highlights that helping measures are easier and they can be claimed to be pro-women, but they actually can cause harm. And honestly, we've known for a very long time, and this was even declared in the DORA strategy in 2012, that hiring, promotion, and tenure decisions are largely made on merit is a myth, among others. So at the other end, as a very nice example of fixing the tree of physics, fixing our enterprise, was this Hubble Space Telescope selection process, which we highlighted in the workshop. So, and then there are these additional resources that we offered to the participants, which the preparatory videos were required material and these were additional. So on day one, we briefly recapped the preparatory videos. We tried to identify our multiple identities in our physics lives and explored how some of them are disadvantaging, but others give us privilege. We then try to learn that privilege is most often invisible to the privileged, and try to also understand what the evidence tells us. On day two, we took a deep dive into how identities play out. So we considered commonly suggested interventions to mitigate gender equity. So this was an activity that we did in breakout groups. So each breakout group considered one of these three typical interventions that are bandied about: more maternity leave for women, more toilets for women, and quotas for women. Then on day two itself, we did a second exercise based on the learning that was acquired earlier. We tried to formulate recommendations. We broke out into two groups, and each group looked at recommendations for our physics practice, which was meant to be shared and discussed by country teams in their own academic forums in their own country. Recommendations for IUPAP Working Group 5 moving forward, and recommendations for IUPAP. So before coming up with these recommendations, we also tried to understand the remit of each of these three. So these are the recommendations that we came up with for our physics practice: double anonymized reviews of grant proposals and research papers. Intersectional equity and inclusion must be included in the physics curriculum. Introductory textbooks must have more representation of women scientists. Regular discussions on equity, diversity, and inclusion must occur. Active learning in science teaching should be encouraged and rewarded. Science outreach must be changed into the less hierarchical science engagement. Quota policies should be designed with an intersectionality lens. High-stake assessments should be discarded and alternate assessments should be found. So recommendations for IUPAP Working Group 5 were: collate information on contextually inclusive models of education in physics, collate phrases in multiple languages in order to move away from the ableist and gender binary thinking, collate resources that facilitate international collaboration via the website. Recommendations for IUPAP: conferences must have anonymized review, an anonymized review process for selecting contributed abstracts. This was actually a repeat of the recommendation from last time. In fact, last time the workshop had recommended that IUPAP funding and endorsement had to be contingent on this. And the second recommendation was that IUPAP should offer an extra institutional redressal mechanism for discrimination complaints. This is when institutional mechanisms were found to fail. Participants felt that there needed to be an independent mechanism that was outside of their own institution. So I will stop there and take questions.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much for the presentation. Anyone to have questions? No? It seems that everybody's waiting for the last part, right? Preparing questions for the open session. Okay, so let's continue now. Workshop number 4, please, Anissa.
Thank you, Lilia. I'm just going to share the screen. Okay, so this is fourth workshop, the Women's Leadership in Physics, and the organizers are me, Anita Kurup, and Lilia Mensmonts. So this workshop, we are actually, we have 2 sessions in 2 different days, and the first session was dedicated to women's leadership style. In this session, we have the participant are around about 52 participants are participating in this workshop. And for this workshop, we have to invite a speaker, Professor Shuhuni Ghosh from Canada. And the title of her talk is Leadership for Inclusion. And she shared their experiences and convinced the female, the early career leaders especially, that they have to enjoy the physics and then play for the win-win, not for the loss. So the participant enjoy her a lot. And the second was the Professor Katie Fulai from Australia. And the title of her talk was The Leaders, a Perspective from a Woman in Physics. And Katie Fulai not only shared her experience as a leader, and she also discussed the problem she was facing to be the future leader. And she gave so many advices to the young leaders as well. And in this session, we discuss different leadership style. For example, we are discussing 4 different leadership style: the authoritative leadership, democratic, facilitative, and situational. So we distribute a questionnaire among the participant and waiting for the results, which reflect that the 70% of the women have a facilitative style. And then the statistic tells us that 39% of women have a democratic style and only 1% of women have an authoritative style. So the participant enjoy a lot, that they find out that which leadership skill are actually hidden inside them. And then they found themselves as a leader. So most of the participants, they enjoy this session. In the second session, we have again 2 speakers, Beverly Professor Hartline from USA, and she speaks about seeks opportunities, make a difference, and find your success. So she go through the experiences in her life when she was a youngster, and then with the passage of time, she actually find out different opportunities and avail the opportunities, and then make her success in front of the participant. And we are really thankful for Beverly that she gave a hope to the upcoming leaders. Then Professor Irvi Gledhill from South Africa, and she talked about the inquiring mind and the organization, physics in leadership. So she little bit talk about her physics journey, from where she start and then how she move further and then prove herself as a leader across the globe. So this activity focused on a small group discussion about the following, the perceived and the real challenges for women. So we put in this activity, we have a 4 breakout room, and we put 3 questions in front of the upcoming women. What are the major problems they are facing? Number 1, what is the reason that the women's leaders are underrepresented across the globe? And what is actually the major problem they are facing and what stop them to be at the top position? And the third, that recommendation for an IAPAP, that what IAPAP can help you in the future. So we wanted to get the experience of women who are not yet leaders and women who are leaders addressing the challenges which would lead to the resolutions. Perceive real challenges that perceive as not being strong for leadership role, preventing women from becoming leaders. These are the factors, the organization, cultural, societal constraints, socioeconomic constraint, and work-life balance are the major problem that most of the women, they feel that because of these problems, the women are not at the top position. And the lack of training, coaching, and mentorship. So they emphasize on it that mentorship is very important for the upcoming leaders. And so due to the lack of training and coaching and mentorship, that is the other reason that the women are not visible at the leadership position. The main resolution for an IAPAP, which we get from the participants, is at the top, the mentorship workshop for the early career physicists are very, very important. And number two, collaboration and networking for the women leaders. And the third, celebrating women's achievement through awards. Thank you so much for your time.
Okay. Thank you very much, Anissa. Any question, comment? No? Okay. So now we have the last workshop.
Lilia, there are some comments in the.
There are questions.
Yeah, there are comments. One is, I'll just read out for you. It's from Yasir. Thank you for the opportunity. One of many questions I have is, how can IUPAC advise and follow up on activities in favor of women in countries like Nicaragua?
Oh, yes, I was in the wrong section. Okay, thank you. Okay.
So I don't know if Silvina is there. Maybe she can type an answer for that.
Yes.
I am here. Can you repeat the question?
You should be able to see it. Okay, but I'll repeat the question. The question is, how can IUPAC advise and follow up on activities in favor of women in countries like Nicaragua?
Well, actually, the working group has, as I told before, more country teams than IUPAC members. So it can be easier for the working group if you have contacts of women in Nicaragua, then to set up a working group there. Then once we have that, as I told you, the IUPAC is now going to approve a new type of membership for countries with small physics communities, and the idea is that IUPAC will help them develop the community. But if we have a link through women, but via, IUPAC Central does not, it's not involved in the collection of what happens specifically with women from different countries. But are you talking about the particular situation now in Nicaragua and issuing a statement, like something like that? Or is it something like analyzing the situation in a country with a small physics community? That's what I don't know.
I think it's the second one, Silvina. But yes, Yasser, I don't know if you want to, but I think it's the second one.
Well, if it's we can put in touch the people in Nicaragua with the vice president for membership to start negotiations to see if they can become this new type of member of IUPAC. And if that's the idea, then if the idea is to have a working group on women in physics in Nicaragua, I think it's more through Working Group 5 that has to be organized.
Yeah.
There's one more question.
Lilia, could I respond to the other question that is there in the Q&A?
Which one? Because there are...
It's about recordings.
Okay.
Yeah, so I just
Yes,
wanted to say none of the workshops I think were recorded. We also didn't record our workshop, and that was intentional because we wanted to maintain a safe space for people to express their views and comments. But if for our particular workshop, we had preparatory videos and additional resources. And if somebody wants those, please feel free to email me and I will send them.
But here is a comment. Leadership is about making feel others better. I hope we can make this world a better place for sharing our stories. That was by Rizwana. Okay, it seems that there is no other question now. And please, Farida.
Yes.
Please.
Okay, I will share my slide. Okay. Can you see this slide and hear me well?
Yes, perfect.
Okay. Hi, everyone. It is my pleasure to report to you the summary that we have come up with from the role of women in science for development. This workshop has been organized with David and myself with the support of Dr. Nicole. I will emphasize this later on. Okay. A few overall about the workshop. So we had 2 sessions, 2 hours each, that has been have been allocated to address the following questions. So the first of all, we wanted to know what are some of the crucial roles women play in science for development, and then what strategy can be employed to ensure that women have a say in decision-making processes that shape scientific priorities and policies. And then what practical steps can we take to leverage the influence and authority of AOPAP, the WGC, and the physics profession overall to ensure women inclusion and contribution in development and are amplified and valued. So we have to steer the interaction and the workshop at all. We had a keynote presentation from Dr. Nichara that was excellent, and a speech from Dr. Amal. And the main goal from those 2 interventions was to address the real life example. For instance, what are women currently doing in science to create just a better world? And how can we learn from this exciting experience to create a great opportunity to include women in development through sciences? So in terms of preparation and support, we have several meetings with Dr. Nicole and along with her team. And this is before, of course, the workshop. And I must say that the Dr. Nicole has provided an excellent environment. It was amazing. For me, it was excellent. And the first time I be present in such an environment to create a dynamic and interaction more attractive between the participants. Among the logistic that Dr. Nicole has prepared include the breakout rooms, the Padlet, activator and the accelerator. Also, we have created to survive for the both days, and also there was the slide dedicated to collect all the recommendations from all the participants that we have in the workshop. So here, to give you an idea how the workshop was, I mean, the presentation from Dr. Nishara was amazing. really. And the speech from Dr. Amal in terms of self-building and abilities, and one has to fight to construct the person must construct herself before interacting with the environment. That was really very exciting and very motivating for all the participants. And then in terms of participation, there was more than in the first day was 24, 25, and the second day, as you can see, there was 26, 27. Okay, and I must ensure you that was a fruitful interaction among the breakout rooms member, because we have created 4 breakout rooms, and each breakout room there are we have had a mixity between the let's say the participants, student, researcher, professor, and it was a dynamic environment in each rooms. The overall comment that we have compiled from this discussion, that we need to keep advocating and fighting for gender equality in leadership terms, and breaking down barriers that hinder women participating in science. That is crucial to keep this dynamic, this fighting. And we have received several, this message was all the time showing our chat, talking with female physicists from over the world, and sharing experience and sketch were wonderful. Really, I can assure you that it was a fantastic environment sharing to those days. For me, at least, it was fantastic, really. And I can ensure for all the participants. So coming back to what the recommendation that we have come up during these 2 days or two sessions. First of all, we have organized it in such a way. The first point, the first recommendation regarding to engaging our male colleagues. This is what we recommend is actively educate or raise awareness of bias and discrimination through, for instance, implicit bias assessment and bystander training. Create male gender champions, create an environment where inequity and intolerance is simply unacceptable. The second bullet is more representation of women. A woman active involvement in science empower them to take on leadership roles, fostering a positive impact on decision-making process. So here, when women are in leadership position, they can influence policies, set research priorities, and advocated for equal resource allocation. To put more emphasis here, so what we search by extension, for instance, by extension, other underrepresentation group in the European Commission, committees, and working group, particularly in leadership. So we need to enhance their participation as a leadership, to take leadership. And then for the next recommendation related to the network and communication. So what we propose here, we recommend is undertake measures to enhance network and collaborate to expand the voices of women in science. So women scientists can influence policy development by providing evidence-based insight and advocating for evidence-based decision-making at local, national, and international levels. Concrete example we can give here, expand of program like LIA to give access to substantive infrastructure or equipment in general framework, especially to women in developing nations. These could include, it should include training and support for studies as cultural diplomacy and science communication to help amplify the voice of all women for developing nations. And in terms of the recommendation that we would like to provide to our working group, as in general, we have compile all the comment intervention in the first bullet. which say that women in science often focus their research on addressing specific needs and challenges faced by women in community. This targeted approach can lead to more inclusive and impactful development initiative. So from this point, what we need that our working group should ensure the ongoing connection of the coherent of women engaged in this meeting. And that's all. That's what I have. Thank you. I stop sharing.
Thank you, Farida. Is there any specific question for this presentation? There are some comments here. Science diplomacy for not cultural diplomacy. So yeah, we have to work on that, I guess.
Yeah,
Okay.
we have debate a lot of science diplomacy, cultural diplomacy. It is part of each other. I mean, we need, as a physicist, as a scientist, we need to have skill regarding the science diplomacy, and having the such discipline, it is include cultural diplomacy. It is for us, we have debated these aspects a lot, and it was one of our recommendations, but we have considered in the culture, because the culture is a really I mean, imposing a lot of hinder for women development in general.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Regarding one question about the access to the documents and all the information, because also in the workshop number 4, we have some documents and some information to share with the attendees. But we later will announce how to proceed to give access to all the attendees and all this information. We also have some videos, pre-recorded videos by some of the speakers. So we will see how to give access to all this information.
Could you allow me, Lilia, just to add one point? It was a rise, I mean, the grant for young PhD students. I mean, again, I mean, this topic is arising every time. So again, they ask if a clear information could be put in the website or somewhere can access, because it seems that there is really a big issue in conveying the information within the country, in developing country, I mean, in particular, because they have issue to access to any kind of grants. So this was a message from the PhD students to you.
Okay, we can talk a little bit about that now. Okay, so I don't see any questions. So to continue with this, I'm going to share my presentation just to address some of the issues, to see what to do now. What is this? Now what we have all these things. Let me just show you. Okay. So first, Silvina has already addressed how's the organization. I think this is very important because very often we have found that we physicists don't know anything about the IUPAC. So this is just the structure she mentioned before. And also this information, you can find it in the web page. Now, as also she mentioned, for the working group, we have the Women in Physics. We have this connection with the gender champion, which actually now is Jillian, and also to the IUPAC, the whole organization, and they are connected both too. Now, they have also connection with these two commissions, and I will go more beyond this. First, I want to introduce the members of the working group, number 5, currently. You see, we have from Africa. These are the composition is based on geographical distribution now, specifically by continents. So we have representatives from Africa. At this moment is Francisca Okeke from Nigeria and Farida Fassi from Morocco. From the Asia region, we have a Ruben Pen from China, Beijing, and Isa Kamar from Pakistan, and Prajwal Sastry from India, who is by chair. From Latin America and the Caribbean, it's myself, Lilia Mesa, currently I am the chair. And in North America, we have April Hodari from the United States. In Oceania, we have David Hutchinson from New Zealand. And also as part of the structure, we have the IUPAC Gender Champion, Gillian Butcher from the United Kingdom. You have seen some of them in these presentations. Now, there is also,
and Europe. And Europe, Marietka.
I'm sorry, I forgot Marjetka. Yes, Marjetka from Slovenia. Yeah, sorry for Marjetka, I missed you. Yes, thank you, Julia, for this point. And we also have associate members as all the commissions and working groups in IUPAC. And currently, the only associate members we have is Kathy Foley from Australia. For a long time, we have the administrative support from Leah Bullis from the APS. Leah Bullis, many of you have received all this information now from Leah. I want to stop a little bit about the last resolution. This is the resolution. It deals with the Waterloo Charter, which Silvina already mentioned. It was adopted. This is called the Waterloo Charter for Gender Inclusion and Diversity to guide its actions and commits itself to promote its adoption by its members, physical society, and other scientific unions. The UPAP also manifests its commitment to continuously update and disseminate the list of policies, action, and recommendations pertaining to affirmative action, career paths, and institutional policies that are spelled out in the charters, and there is some supporting information. I really think that this is a very important resolution because it's an umbrella to develop all our activities that were shown in or proposed in the workshops presentations. This is how the Waterloo Charter looks like in the website. I invite you to read it in detail. You can see this is the beginning with the guiding principles. People of all genders are equally good in doing excellent science and deserve equal opportunity. Diversity contributes to excellence in science so that the full participation of people of genders, oh, sorry, I'm missing something here, will end, I think, excellence in the fields of physics. Both thought and actions are necessary to ensure equal participation for all. The attainment of equal opportunity should be measured by outcomes. That is also very important. That is, we need outcomes of all the things we are doing. Thus, as long as the percentage of women in the next level of advancement does not equal the percentage in the pool, equal opportunities will be considered to exist. Long-term change requires periodic evaluation of progress and consequent action to address areas where improvement is necessary. Now, there are more paragraphs. I'm not going to them. I'd rather go to the second part of the resolution. And let me think what we're talking about, what to do with all the material you have provided us and all the resolutions that came up from the workshops. We are going to collect all the proposals, organize them according to whom they are directed to, because you can see that there is a whole spectrum of ideas, thoughts, actions that we need to develop. Now, we have to select those who can be presented as resolutions and specify what are the address to the working groups. I mean, what the working group can do, and also they develop a plan to address these proposals in order to the work group take actions and maybe try to work together with another entities. We'll see that. And as it was mentioned before, we have already a representative of the working group in the C15 Physics for Development. It's actually, I have to mention that Anissa has been proposed. It has to be been voted in this next General Assembly. It's not, she's not a member still, but we have proposed her. And now the Commission 14 Physics for Education, she has already a member of the working group, Farida Fassi. We have established contact with the working group Physics and Industry, and also with International Association of Physics Students. So as you can see, I'm moving now to the second part of the last resolution. This is a mandate. The UPAP expands the mandate of the working group to include. So now this is what a UPAP is asking to do. Actually, it's a mandate to survey, monitor the situation, and suggest means to increase gender diversity and inclusion in the practice of physics, to keep an active network of groups across the world that can monitor the situation at the national and regional levels, and I guess is promote and take actions to increase gender diversity and inclusion across countries and regions, to organize a triennial international conference on the matter, something we are doing, and to promote the Charter on Gender Diversity and Inclusion and contribute to the continuous updating and dissemination of the list of policies, action, and recommendations pertaining to affirmative action, career paths, and institutional policies that are spelled out in the charters. Supporting information. To cooperate with commissions, affiliated commissions, working groups, and UPAP members to increase the gender diversity of the pool of candidates for awards, commission memberships, and to be invited as speakers or committee members of a UPAP endorsed and supported conference. Okay, so this is a list of actions that the working group and all the, as you can see, all the teams are involved to take action, to follow this, to accomplish the goals of this mandate. Also, we have to liaise with the vice president at large, with gender champions, duties, you can see the rest. And all these aspects, and to cooperate into the design and control of policies and guidelines for the UPAP structure, and for the activities endorsed and supported by the union, to liaise with the president at large, with gender champion duties, to participate in the joint activities organized with other international organizations, particularly those related to the Standing Committee for Gender Equality in Science. Okay, so this is the framework we have to address all the proposals that the workshops that have emerged from the workshops. So now I think, in my opinion, and we were talking also about this a little bit with members of the working group. Now the challenge is how to take action, really how to organize these activities, workshops, mentorships, programs, and things like that. As Silvina mentioned, it's not that easy sometimes, especially because we don't have all the resources to do all the things. So at this moment, I want to call the teams and team leaders to keep in touch. We have a UPAP website where you will find information. We have our own website, but it's not updated. So we have to work in a new website, and we have been talking about this to have this and have all the information that you mentioned, like calls for fellowships, conferences, and things like that. I kindly asked you to send the contributions to proceedings. If we have announced that the last conference proceedings are ready, and they will be soon published. But for those who attended, Kathy Folish, who was one of the editors of the last proceedings, she emphasized that it took a lot of time to work editing the proceedings because instructions were not followed, and also some part of the procedures we are working on developing a procedure to make things easier for everybody, for the editors, for the teams. Also, we will announce soon. At this moment, we don't have everything finished, but we will soon give you all the advice for these proceedings. It is very important to look for support of your association. As Silvina said before, it's not that simple. Many of us have experienced that lack of interest sometimes from our associations. But in our experience, we know that pushing hard, getting allies, and getting support from other colleagues and finding just the right moment to get this support, we can really get great achievements, like, for example, adopting the code of conduct for conferences against sexual harassment. I think this is a very important guide to avoid the sexual harassment in our conferences. So we invite you to keep working at national and regional level. Disseminate, as it was established there, the Waterloo Charter. We have to see it and think about how to update. Actually, with all these proposals that you have submitted in the workshops, we can start working on this to update the Waterloo Charter, and if possible, ask for endorsement to our associations or our institutions. And also, this is a kind request also that please notify changes, try to renew and expand the teams, your members, invite some others, and then just creating a group, we can address more issues and start new activities. So thank you for this presentation, and now the session is open for questions, comments, ideas, suggestions. If someone of the members of the working group also would like to add some comments or extend some of these ideas, please go ahead. We still have some time to do it. Anyone? Oh, Anissa, please.
Yeah. The one thing I just suggested that how to increase the woman leadership role. maybe put it on the agenda of the IAPAC, because the representation of women is very lower at any level.
What do you mean at the in physical societies?
Yeah,
Or within the IUPAP? Because
mainly
now
in the
we can
physical
see-
societies,
Okay,
because the country's problem. How the
Okay.
countries improve the women leadership, their representative, and first at the country level, then at the country association level, and then to the IAPAC.
one thing that I was thinking of that I sent an email to Gillian and Lilia was that maybe we can share the reports written by the country teams with the corresponding liaison committees, and at the same time writing some recommendation on on trying to include a larger representation of women. And then also that would serve, because someone asked about the countries that didn't participate in this conference, and maybe they are members of IUPAP. I don't know if there are any of those. And lately, many European countries were not so active, at least in the in-person equips, I remember.
Agree.
And most of them are members of IUPAP. Of course, they have their own policies and stuff like that, but I think it would be good to, I don't know, to tell the liaison committees that if that's the situation, I really don't know. Anyway,
Yeah.
but it would be good to have that information, and then we could, I don't know, I don't know what's the timeline of the proceedings, but we can point to the previous proceedings that are already there on the web and say, please look at that. And
Is
try
there
to
any
meet-
is there any possibility that IAPAC organize a month or a 2-month online courses for improvement of women leadership?
Well,
In the
no,
presence of the already available leaders, women leaders, which are working across the globe nowadays.
yeah, we can think about that. Okay, I will write it down.
Yeah.
Yes, okay.
I'll,
Farida, please.
As
Yes.
usual,
Oh.
you know,
Oh,
we
thank
have
you.
two hands,
Thank you.
two hands and one body actually. So we cannot do everything.
The women leadership was actually the core of the discussion. I mean, when we talk the gender balance policy, the rules exist, but the implementation is not there. I can give one single example. For instance, there are university institution organizations that they are overloaded. There are no men to form the committee, but they have not the culture to invite a woman to be formed from the committees. So should be put it clear that the women, we need to encourage. It is not encouraging the women. This is the right of a woman to be part from forming the committee, a hiring committee, promotion committee, recruitment committee. This is, we are fighting a lot of time, all the time, the same men in the table, and nobody can ask for women. They have not. They need to change the mindset of this is an installed culture that we need to fight for it. So good point, Anissa. But it is, we need more time. But it is, I mean, we need to fight for this. We need to remember the man that we exist, and we can. I mean, we have demonstrated the leadership. Okay, for maybe for some women need some training, but I guess our experience, what we have done, what we are doing in science, in our personal life, give us the full leadership. So I am confident. I have full leadership. All of us, we have the full leadership. So we need to be there. This is my message.
Okay, sorry. Let me just before we need to move on to the next session. So just please, Francisca, just a very short comment, and then there are some questions that we will answer later because we don't have now. Yes, now more time. Okay,
thank you.
please go ahead.
Mine is not question, but just a brief comment on the women scientist leaders. Yes, we need to be there, correct and right. But there are some qualities we need to possess as women scientists. We need to, that is responsibility, self-discipline, teachability, vision, good relationship, positive attitude, listening ear, and what have we. But we have to ask ourselves, because we are not coming out physically to fight the men, but there are ways we do it. We achieve our purpose. I've always said that. So it's right we occupy some leadership space, but it's also good that we look into ourselves and say how we can perform when we are there. Some of us actually, like I said in our meeting, we are into the people surrounding us. In a physics, always a male domain subject, that's what they term it. And then we find ourselves mixed up with them. And then I don't think the right thing is to start doing it by force. There are ways we do it and you gain that access to it. And when you are there, what do you do to the people that are coming under you? That is very important. And again, in suggesting, this is about leadership, in suggesting the strategies for us to get more women or to excel in physics, there are so many things we have suggested, but every conference, we still say the same thing. The question now is not that we don't have ideas of what to do, but implementation has always eluded us. That's what I want to say. How do we implement this for the international and national collaboration? It is quite easy when we are serious with ourselves. We can collaborate with Morocco with this using the network. Networking is very important here. We find areas where they are working and where we are working, similar areas, we team together. And then it is done. Once we start doing it, well, not just every time we say it and we go back and nothing is done. Thank you. Implementation is the key answer. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm sorry we have to end the session because we have to move to the closing session now. We have some questions here, as I mentioned before, we will try to answer later. And after that, I want to thank you, Silvina, for that very important talk to understand the mechanisms, how the IUPAP works, and also all the organizers of the workshops, the attendees. Thank you very much for your participation, and all the working group members for organizing this part of the conference. Thank you very much. So saying this, I would like to pass the microphone to Vandana and Shruva, please.
Yeah, thank you, Lilia. It was really a very, very fruitful session and we learned a lot about it. And this really now brings us to the close of the conference. I now invite Madhurima to conduct the proceedings for next 10-15 minutes or so, where we just try to recapitulate what happened in last few days and also announce the poster prizes and have some concluding remarks. Yeah, Madhurima.
Thank you, Vandana. I hope I'm audible to all of you.
Yes.
Yeah. It was really nice listening to all of you summarize the various workshops and the key resolutions and recommendations. We now come to the end of a long week. Time seemed to fly, because every day was exciting and every day had something new. It's hard to believe 1 week is over, but on the other hand, I think many of us are taking back a lifetime of learning. So while each one of our experience is going to be very unique as to what we take away from this conference, as a quick look at what has happened in the last 5 days, I request Shrubhavati Goswami, one of the co-chairs of the local organization committee of EQUIP 2023, to give us a summary of what happened. Shrubhavati.
Thank you, Madhurima. Let me share my slides.
Okay, so yeah, so so good. Okay, so so this is the closing session, and I have the pleasant task of summarizing the proceedings. So since we already had the workshop summary, so I thought I will just concentrate on the plenary talks and take you through the Okay. Okay, so we started from here. This was my slide when I started with about 500 participants, and let's see what we had in the week. So we had a keynote lecture by Karen Halberg and on quantum condensed matter and emergent phenomena. And I very much liked the closing statement of his talk, that my dream is that one day, thanks to the strong interaction and collaboration of many people and institutions, a new reality in physics and science will emerge, in which any kind of bias will be eliminated and where complete equity and inclusion will be achieved. So this was the message from her talk. And then we had a talk by Raja Sherkoli El Mursil from Morocco. She talked about personal challenges, and she also spoke about Atlas and the challenges to involve Morocco in Atlas collaboration. We had another talk in the same session on institutional racism and sexism in science by Nat Brown. And of course, we agree that equity is a collective responsibility. The second plenary showcased 3 Indian speakers. Professor Rupmanjari Ghosh talked about second quantum revolution and her work on experiments on quantum non-locality and many other important works in which she has contributed. We had one more talk by Priyadarshini Karve, sorry, there is a typo, on climate change and education. And this is her website where, each of us can check how much carbon footprint we are giving and what is our climate vulnerability. And climate consciousness must begin with us, because we should remember that there is no planet B for us, and each of us have to be responsible for that. We had a talk by young Rupjyoti Gagoi on intergalactic dusts, and she spoke about her journey for a remote place of India and about reaching the stars and her research on the stars. We had a very intense panel discussion on the effect of COVID-19 pandemic, and these are our panelists. And Dr. Vibhuti Patel talked about reverse migration and horrific effects of, especially on women, and violence against, she mentioned how violence against women escalated due to social isolation under lockdown. There was discussion on mental health, budget, fair and care principle. There was also a discussion by Mehmani Bahar on the less publication by women during the pandemic and how is it accounted for in the career growth, and whether any policies in place. There was discussion on diversifying success measures beyond publications, expanding beyond existing review and existing group of reviewers. There is impact of COVID-19 on women in the STEM workforce. The study carried out was talked about by Francesca. And then there were, in the special plenary session, there was a discussion on geographical and gender bias in publishing by Mika from the IOP Publishing, and she gave some statistics on the double anonymous policies. And then Kathy Foley talked about the importance of equip proceedings, and the equip proceedings are important because they provide the record of our efforts in physics.
And countries need to provide their papers to suit their country's solution and the uniqueness. So this was the special plenary. And then today we had 3 very exciting and interesting talks. One by Marija Vernick on laser plasma interactions. She spoke about how the early career prize have inspired her. And she spoke also about the Women in Physics Student Club at Instituto Superior Técnico that she has been involved with. Then Maria Eugenia Cabrera gave a very inspiring talk on the situation in Guatemala and how the Central American network has been formed in HEP and on the building bridges and rethinking strategies. And finally, we had Dorothy Gordon talking on stochastic parrots in the context of machine learning and AI and the ethics and she also mentioned that diversity is important to solve the wicked problems and we need action plans. So this is the poster session and you could travel to many interesting places during the poster session. And so these are from the Twitter, the pictures where different people have gone. And in fact, you can even break the glass ceiling as Madhurima has been able to achieve in this virtual space. So behind the scenes, what was happening was we are always, moving from one window to the other. And these are the, serious things which happens that sometimes I am very confused. Where am I? And then, Bandana is always very efficient and she points me to the window. And I also have to mention that all these cartoons that I have shown are made by my very talented colleague, Madhurima. And I will always tell her that can we have an infographics on today's session? And then she will say, sure, let me try. And these are in the Twitter and we are going to follow this for 2-3 more days and we need to tweet. So please check there. So I think that this is the control room from where we were greeting you and we were organizing everything. I think I'm going to miss this. And thank you. And let's keep the momentum and see you in next equip. Thank you.
Thank you, Shubhavati, for that very succinct summary and for the opportunity that you gave me to try my sketching skills and for taking it in the right spirit. Thank you. Can I request Shubhavati to please announce the poster and paper awards now?
Yeah. So for the poster, this time we decided that we will have poster prizes, and we had 7 tracks. And what we found was in the Women in Physics track, the highest score was from the organizers and in the LSE and LOC members, and so we have not given any prize in that track. So I will now invite the WG5 members. First, it's Marjetka Conradi to announce the poster prize, and the poster prizes are sponsored by IOP publishers. And here you can see the list of books from which one can choose. So Marjetka, I would like to invite you to announce the poster prizes.
Yes, hello. First of all, let me just thank you to be a part of this great conference in this great company. And it is also my great honor to deliver first 2 poster prizes. The first one goes to Dr. Lens Estrada, The Torsion of Stellar Streams and the Shape of Galactic Gravity Source. So this is the first best poster award. And the second one goes to Dr. Bhattacharya, if I announced it properly, development of new generation gases detectors for physics. So my compliments to both of the winners.
Thank you, Marjetka. So, we have 1 prize in each track, apart from the condensed matter track, and there is no order, just the first 2. I now invite Francisca to announce the next 2 poster prizes.
Siska, maybe you are mute.
Kindly unmute yourself.
Very sorry, please. I said I cannot see the price, the paper on the screen. Please, can you put the on the screen so that I can, okay. Okay, the next prize goes to Professor Chen Melhessen et al. For the paper entitled Hybrid Photodetectors of Triple Perovskite with a Graphene at the 8th IUPAC International Conference on Women in Physics, held virtually during 10 to 14 July 2023, with India as the host country, and was jointly organized by the Gender in Physics Working Group in India, Physics Association, and the Tata Institute of Fundamental Research. The conference was hosted by the Homi Bhabha Center for Science Education, TIFR. Thank you for allowing me to announce this. So please, the prize goes to him. Then the next Best Poster Award is presented to Ms. Mantiri Piriyanshi et al. Pardon me if I have not produced well, for the paper entitled Growth of Cobalt Doped Beta and the calcium and Ge-tune 203 crystals for saturable absorber application at the 8th IUPAC International Conference on Women in Physics, held virtually during 10 to 14 July 2023, with India as the best country, and was jointly organized by Gender in Physics Working Group of Indian Physics Association and the Tata Institute of Fundamental Research. The conference was hosted by the Homi Bhabha Center for Science Education, TIFR. Thank you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you, Francisca. I will now invite Anisa Komer to read the name of the next two poster prize winners and their title of their poster. Anisa, over to you.
Okay. So, yeah, the best poster, this poster prize goes to Dr. Colleen Tangam and Gomti Devi. And the title of the paper was the Molecular Properties Studies of Choline Chloride, Glucose and Water-Based Nets. So congratulations to Dr. Colleen Tangam that you win this prize. Congratulations a lot from my side. And the next poster is, yeah, so this is the next poster, and the name of the presenters are Dr. Ko and Gaili Kafira and others. And the title of their poster is Homemade Solar Tracking System. Congratulations from my side, and then thank you for the LUC that they give me a chance to distribute these two posters to the poster award to the two poster winners. Thank you again.
Thank you, Anisa. Lilia, I would now like to request you to announce the remaining poster prize.
Oh, thank you, Shruvan. So it's my pleasure to present this award, Best Posters, to Tashlikova Boshkevich Aya and collaborators for the paper titled Belarusian Experience on Reducing Gender Gap in Natural Science using Heuristic Learning Approach in Physics Education in the University. Congratulations to all the members of this poster.
So I thank all the poster judges for the hard work that they have done navigating through frame. And so over to you, Madhurima.
On behalf of the local organizing committee, I place on record our heartiest congratulations to all the winners of these awards. I now invite the chair of the Working Group 5 of IUPAC, Lilia Mezamontia, for her remarks on this.
Okay, thank you. I would like to share my screen. Let me just go over here. It seems that it's not working. Well, anyway, let me just close. The map is showing here. We have thank you, very different languages. That's why I wanted to say thank you very much. And I would like to really thank all the sponsors to this conference, the Indian Academy of Science, the Indian National Science Academy, the National Academy of Science, the let me see, Indian Association of Physics Teachers, the Astronomical Society of India, IEEE Bombay Section, Women in Science, and the Indian Academy of Science Initiative, and the Office of the Principal Scientific Advisor of the Government of India, and also something here which is says NESR. I really I truly thank the Gender in Physics Working Group of Indian Physics Association and the Tata Institute of Fundamental Research, the Homi Bhabha Center for Science Education for hosting this conference. I also would like to thank the Institute of Physics and the United States team for the prizes, and also particularly to April Hodari for the support with the facilitators teams. We really were helpful, as some of the workshops organizers have mentioned. And also, I'm so grateful to the local organizing committee. I was interacting with Vandana and Shruva, particularly, but I know that behind them, there is a group, a very enthusiastic group of colleagues working very hard to make this conference very successful. And it is, I think it's really a very fruitful conference. So, and I would also like to thank the members of our working group for their support. We were working on the program, the local organizing committee, the working group, and also I want to say thank you because of the social activities, the satellite workshops, and all the work that is behind to have this conference, all the activities ready to enjoy by all of us. I don't know how many emails the local organizing committee sent. I know many, but that's part of our work, and I really appreciate all the things that they were doing. Also, I would like to say thank you to the invited speakers. Their talks were very inspiring, and I really appreciate them sharing the knowledge they show in their presentations. Also, my colleagues organizing the workshops, thank you very much. I know that they were trying to find the best way to perform, to take this into action. And I think this is a very important contribution up to the conference. To all the attendees, the effort to participate and share with us all the work that they have done since the last conference in Australia. We all appreciate this, and I want to express on behalf of the working group of our interest to support all these activities, and we will have to define the way, as Francisca already mentioned, how really the task is how to implement all these proposals. I'd like to comment that during the icebreaker session, we were invited to write a in a word, the expectations from we have for this conference. And the most cited word was learning. And I think that this conference really accomplished that, fulfilled those expectations, learning. Through all the conference we were learning. I was very happy of learning all the activities that the working group in India is doing. I learned very much, a lot of things. I got some ideas. And from this, I really, I'm sure I can really say that all the goals were achieved. So to me, this is not the end of a stage, it's the end of the conference, but it is also the beginning of something else, just to think about all the tasks and how we are going to work on to make many of these proposals be take all these proposals make real. I mean, we can do. But it's also the time to start new collaborations, and this takes me to the first time when I got an email inviting me to be to participate in a conference on women in physics. I was amused. I never thought about gender and my own place, professional scholar place, to relate these issues on gender and how my work was being doing there. And one of the most things the most important thing I really appreciate from this conference, besides all the gender learning and all the activities, is that I always leave the conference with new friends. I was very happy to work with Nana and Shruva, and I'm very happy to have new friends. I was so surprised that Ada and Ada from Nigeria, and we were, I don't know why this random distribution of breakouts make us coincide in many times in the workshop, in the same breakout room. I don't know what it happened, but I was very happy to work with her and all the participants in the workshops. So from this, we have to move to the next equip. By that time, I won't be the chair anymore. But I have been exchanging some ideas, thoughts with Prajwal, who will be at charge of the next conference. And with this, I want to thank again all of you, all of the persons, all the institutions that made this conference be very successful. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sylvia, for your remarks, for your kind words of appreciation to the LOC, and for your leadership being at the helm of the WG5. Now I invite Prajwal Shastri, the Vice Chair of WG5, to share her views and remarks about Equip 23. Prajwal.
Thanks. But actually, Lilia has really said everything that needs to be said. We're all sort of still sinking in all the things that have happened and all the new learnings. And when working in this area, it's a hallmark that every time you have an interaction, you learn something new. So it's been wonderful. Thanks to the LOC again, although Lilia has said it in great detail. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Prajwal, for that very short note on it. May I now request Jillian Butcher to please share your views with us?
Thank you. Again, Lily and Prajwal have already said many of the thank yous, so I just want to repeat again, thank you to all the participants of the conference for making it such a fantastic success. It's always great interaction. Thanks also to the local organising committee, all the people behind the scenes, and to Lilia as well. I know how much work goes on behind the scenes. I know all the decisions that have to be made, all the emails that go backwards and forwards. It's a huge amount, but it's really much appreciated. So I was going to, when I was invited to say something in my role as gender champion, I was thinking of the things that I might say about IUPAP and the role, but well, essentially Sylvina has said it all. So instead I thought I'd just tell you about what happened on Wednesday. So on Wednesday we had our conference and we had our usual sort of fantastic talks, and there's lots of posters and looking at the posters, and there's all this great stuff that's going on, and so all this serious high level physics. So after that ended, and of course in the UK, I had time to then go into the lab. So in the lab at the moment, we are moving a piece of equipment. It's an X-ray test facility, a vacuum facility. We're moving it to another lab location. So I found myself on my hands and knees, crawling around, trying to find where cables were going, trying to label them, trying to untangle the nest of cables that was part of this facility. It's not glamorous at all, but then that is often the case in physics. There's a lot of the mundane aspects. It's not all breakthroughs, eureka moments, Nobel Prizes. And so we do have to do some of the mundane jobs, some of the tedious jobs which are necessary to make the breakthroughs. And I think that's also the same can be said about sort of working for gender equality. We all know how much hard work it is, and even at times it can be really demoralizing. But and this week we've shared some of our struggles and some of the challenges that we've all had to face. But we've also shared this week, we've also shared our achievements. We've acknowledged and celebrated the progress that's being made in countries, that's being done in physics. And I think it shows that together we can make a difference, we can celebrate. And it makes this conference, always reminds me that reminds me how much it is worth it, even for those times when we're metaphorically crawling around in the ground, trying to make a sense of things. This conference reminds us that it is all worthwhile, that physics is worthwhile, striving for gender equality is worthwhile. So thank you all for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Julian, for your kind words and sharing your ideas. An event of this magnitude would not have been possible but for the support of many, many people in the background. I now invite the co-chair of Equip 2023, Vandana Nanal, to give her concluding remarks and the vote of thanks and close the event. Vandana, over to you.
Thank you, Madhurima, and thank you, Lilia, Prajwal, and Gillian for the nice concluding remarks and the vote of thanks. It's now our turn, mine and Shubhaviti's, to put our thanks and our gratitude on record. As Shubhaviti said, this has been a long journey. I think if I remember correctly, it started almost 2 years back in October 21, when we started preparing the proposal. And this week saw it becoming a reality. And now it's, I wouldn't say an end, it's an important milestone which we have achieved and we have crossed. And we could achieve it with help of all of you, and it was reality because of the support of many, many, many people. I will not be able to name everybody, but I must put our gratitude, express the things for few people at least. I'll try to be comprehensive, but in case I forget somebody, please forgive me. So let me start the thanks are due to WG5, our International Organizing Committee members, for helping with program, and particularly Lilia, who was always there and had a solution for all problems. I'll take this opportunity to thank Local Advisory Committee, our senior colleagues, Local Organizing Committee, all the working people, and Gender in Physics Working Group members who joined in January because of the group change and just got on board. In particular, Professor Ramakrishnan, who was Director TIFR and IPA President when we were putting forward the proposal. And from the very first step, it was his point that get going and write the proposal. We must do it. That is what actually strongly supported us to put forward this Equip in India proposal. I would like to express deep gratitude to Rohini Godbole and Ram Ramswamy for guidance and assistance at all stages over this period. Deepa, Madhurima, and Satya for doing everything and anything that was needed to be done. It just, without these people, this conference would never would have materialized. Thanks to Suchetna, who is our country leader for this year, for helping and also enlivening the conference control room at TIFR. Deep gratitude to Director TIFR, Mr. Jairam, HDCSC Center Director Prasanna Bhattacharya, President IPA Dr. Yusuf, and Director NICEP, Mr. Srinivasan, for generously supporting this conference. Of course, this would have been incomplete without, and the conference would not have been rich and successful without the participation from all of you, all plenary speakers, session chairs, abstract reviewers, poster judges, workshop coordinators, and satellite workshop coordinators. Here I must thank Tripta and Sarita Vick, Tripta Bhatia and Sarita Vick, for stepping in for the workshop on the presentation skills for career development at a very short notice. We had a very nice cultural program, so I thank all the artists, Sharada, Pratibha, and Mosmi, as well as Munmun and Shobhana for facilitating this. And most important is all the participants who made this effort and the conference successful by participating in it and leading to great deliberations. So gratefully acknowledge all the organizational support for posters from Vedang, Varchasvi and his team, Manoj for web page and certificate designing, and all other technical matters, technical coordinators who made the operation of the Zoom session smooth and almost without any hitches, that is Upasana, Mallikarjun, Sanjay, Amish and Ram from HBCSC. We thank the TIFR Computer Center and Lecture Theatre staff, and we also thank Sumana for interfacing with media and bringing this to their attention. I would like to, before I conclude, I would like to point out that we talked about having this Hall of Fame, and this Hall of Fame picture is now available on the web page. If you haven't seen it, please go and visit that. This is about all the lecture halls, about the information about women scientists, about whom this, after whom these halls were made. The abstract books, the plenary workshops, as well as country papers and contributor papers are also available on the web page. Some of you have asked questions about having frame access and all that. I think many of these things may remain available for a few days. All the plenary sessions will be made available on the YouTube, and we will still remain in touch on the email. Now, before I conclude, Lilia also already expressed thanks in many languages, so I just do that here for the Indian thing. And usually when we write paper, we don't thank co-authors, we thank only all other papers. So I don't know, since this was all on behalf of, both me and Subhabati has been co-chairs, so I don't know if I can technically thank her. But I think what I would like to add is, if I were to do this again, which I certainly don't want to do it at this time of the day, but if I were to do this again, I would not like to do it without her, and I would not be able to do without her. So thank you very much, and goodbye, and until we meet again. Bye-bye. Thank you.
So thank you all, and until we meet in person or in some other virtual conference again, take care. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.